Everybody, my name is Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming simultaneously live in 3 different places. My YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25, Twitter.com @BoyGreen25, and, of course, on our Heavy on Jets Facebook page to over 20,000 New York Jet fans. Make sure you're wherever you're watching, you like the video, hit subscribe down below. And this is an interactive program. So if you've got questions, comments, what have you, feel free to dive into those, and we'll get to those throughout the show. Of course, Boy Green won't be doing this one solo. No, we brought in some extracurricular to try to help us break down. And specifically, we're going to try to turn the page. We'll talk a little bit, of course, about over the weekend, the Jets-Bengals game, Jets-Steelers coming up as well. There's some injury updates we have to get to, and some interesting Robert Saleh comments. You guys will get to see those. I clipped up several of them on my Twitter account, and we'll all enjoy it together. But without further ado, let's bring in my special guest. You can hear him every Friday on the Score 1260 in Syracuse, NFL analyst and also New York Jets guru, the host of the TOJ podcast, Will Parkinson. Will, what's up, buddy?
How we doing? Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're doing okay. I'll be honest. I was a little disgusted with the Bengals' performance, underwhelming. I'll be honest. I tried to get my fiance and my just turned 8-month-old child. I'm like, you know what? I know we weren't supposed to go, but let's rally the troops. Let's head on down to go see the Jets-Bengals game. Why not? The mood is great. The vibes are going. She went, hell no. It's rainy and all this other crap. We're not going down. It's a couple-hour drive for us. I said, fine. I'll watch it from the man cave. And thank goodness, because good Lord have mercy, that was hard to watch. First off, a little nugget, of course, on Jets-Bengals before we answer all the Robert Saleh comments and look ahead to Pittsburgh, etc. So, Will, just kind of your rapid thoughts on the Bengals loss.
Yeah, it was one of those games where you wanted to change the narrative. Same old Jets, kind of laying an egg, right after a big win. Obviously, the Browns game was pretty crazy, and as we all know, that last minute 55 kind of masked a little bit of some of the problems they had. They were, obviously very much on their way to 0-2. I didn't think they actually played very bad yesterday. There was just some glaring holes, particularly quarterback, left tackle, and some of the tackling and some crippling penalties that totally changed the game. The Jets started making kicks. Obviously Garrett Wilson, some of these guys still playing well. Tyler Conklin, I think 8 catches. So they moved the ball. They were in the red zone a bunch. They were in Bengals side of the field a bunch. They created a turnover. It just felt like third down they couldn't get off the field. All 3 touchdowns were there, and it was frustrating, man. I thought, as much as I don't want to always put blame on the quarterback, because you don't always want to praise him and always want to blame him, but I felt like yesterday was a Joe Flacco game where even an average quarterback play, similar to the Baltimore game, I felt like in some senses, but this was even much more extreme. I feel like average quarterback play, they probably win this game, or at least it's 27-24, 2 minutes to go. The Jets need to stop. And I just, it was frustrating. I think any Jets fan that says, I don't think it's a fire Saleh and everyone sucks and everything. There's not that, but there was some concerns yesterday, and some more miscommunications, dumb penalties that crippled them on defense, even on offense, and turnovers and bad quarterback play. And left tackle was a mess yesterday, which did not help when you have a stationary quarterback.
That's for sure. I guess with that, let's make a natural segue to work in the injury updates. George Fant, it seemed like from Saleh, day to day, again, battling that same knee issue that, quite frankly, he's had since the offseason, which is not what you want to see. It seemed like Saleh left the door open. I think it was Brian Costello who asked the question to say, hey, would you consider resting George Fant this week against Pittsburgh? Maybe that's what he needs. He rests all the time. They've rested him in camp, rested him on a week-to-week basis in terms of resting practices. How about the Steelers game? It's like, yeah, no, that's a possibility. Excuse me. That means Connor McDermott would have to step in. Good Lord, Will, this is no bueno heading into Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it was like a weird. I think the Dwayne Brown injury update came first, where it was positive news. I know they mentioned, I reported on it a bunch when it got heard that, maybe they really thought it was only going to be a month. They were hoping post week 4. So he'll come off IR next week and get on the practice field and looks good. And he's going to try to play through. So that was the good news. Then it went right to George Fant, who struggled a lot. Obviously moved around, had the knee injury, struggled through camp in terms of just like staying on the field, in terms of didn't play a lot of reps because they were trying to rest him, and you understood it. But then struggles, and then now it's, he's day to day, and he's not going to, do anything Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then rehab. I'm sure Thursday he will at anything very much lightly practice, if at all. You know, they do. You would love to, as much as Fant struggled, you still trust Fant way more than you trust McDermott or Grant Hermans or any of the guys that are, practice squad or backup level tackle. So look, they're on their fourth and fifth tackle. Like at some level, you understand a little bit of the not. I don't want to say struggles, but some of the struggles in pass blocking. But yeah, it'd be tough. They're lucky TJ Watt's not playing, man, because TJ Watt lined up over Connor McDermott would be tough. But look, you got to hope that Fant a couple of days of rest. It felt yesterday like a benching. Obviously, it was the knee. They kind of came up, and that was the reasoning. But if you look down at the field, George Fant was sitting on the bench by himself. There was no trainer around him. He was just sitting there. So it was – I don't know if it was really a benching. I think it was more of like his knee's bothering him and he can't play the way he's supposed to, and we're going to try to save you from yourself type of thing, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, they probably need Fant to play Sunday, and if he's not going to, you'd like to see him get probably a week and a half of rest here and be ready for Miami, if need be. But yeah, left tackle's an issue right now. There is no question. Right tackle is not, which is great. Left tackle certainly is.
Yeah, let's give one tip of the cap before we dive into the negativity that's about to be coming in here with some of the Saleh comments, and we're going to have to dive into them, and we will play them for everybody who possibly missed them. But before we do that, you're right, Max Mitchell, to be honest, a guy that when he was drafted, a good buddy, a mutual buddy of ours, Connor Rogers, he's the best. Again, Badlands, Bleacher Report, SNY, PFF. I'm running out of things. Like, he needs to give me one of those CVS receipts so I could read all the gosh darn things he's doing. But Connor Rogers is a guy, I trust 1,000%. And after every pick, if I wasn't watching the Bleacher Report stream and jumping between, I'm like, oh, what does Connor think of the player? And when Max Mitchell's drafted, all right, let's go to Jets guy and also draft guru, Connor Rogers. What do you say? Developmental tackle, right tackle only. Maybe in 2023 he can start. That was the spiel. Yeah. I cut it. That's the condensed version of what Connor Rogers said, and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, we've got our guys, Mackay back to George Fant. That shouldn't be a problem anyway. Of course, the injury bug happens, and Max Mitchell's obviously just thrown into the mix here. And I got to be honest, not bad. I mean, all things considered, all the leaks on the offensive line every week seemingly have come from anywhere else. Lakin Tomlinson, of course, week one. You, again, initially some issues against Cleveland, but I thought they did a really great job in the second half. And then this one as well with George Fant was kind of a turnstile. Wow, Max Mitchell, before we get all negative here, Will, I got to say, wow, not bad from old Max Mitchell there.
Yeah, look, so it's funny you mentioned because I'm sitting with Connor during the Senior Bowl, and we're watching. Max Mitchell looks pretty decent. Then he obviously talked about him, obviously on the million different things he does. And I thought he put it pretty well as too. I saw the same thing of, right tackle more so athletically, obviously. But I thought he looked good. He obviously had really good college tape. He's a small school guy, fourth round. Looked solid in camp. Wasn't great, but wasn't bad by any means. So, looked like an NFL level player. You look at Mitchell. He's one of the he's a top 5, rookie tackle this year for PFF through, 3 games. Okay. He's well ahead of Ike Ekwonu and Evan Neal, people wanted the Jets to draft. So, look, if you find a cheap, dependable right tackle, a 4th round guy, Max Mitchell will cost you $1 million a year for the next 4 or 5 years. You're in a really good spot because now you can invest that money elsewhere. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Brown and Fant. Browns obviously will be here next year. Fant, we'll see what happens. And obviously the Mekhi Becton stuff. But at least if you have a dependable guy, that right side's looked good. AVT has been a top 5, top 7 guard in football. I think PFF-wise he's a top 7 guard. Some of the other metrics kind of have him as a top 5 guard. If you have a top 5 right guard and a serviceable right tackle, you're fine. Those guys are both 22, 23 years old. You feel good about that. Center's been okay. Lakin Tomlinson's been up and down. He had a strong week 2 pass walking wise. Week 1 and week 3 struggled. I am a little curious. I'm going to try to do a bit of a deep dive into this week. How much his struggles are because there's been so much struggle at left tackle. Sometimes, when you're working with Trent Williams, you should kind of be able to focus on your job more. When you're the veteran trying to clean other people's mess up, I think sometimes you get unfairly screwed over. I'm not saying he's been great, but I'm not sure he's been quite as bad as everyone thinks he may have been. But yeah, it's look. I usually have to feel good about Mitchell and AVT right now. I was just looking at the comments. They're not moving AVT to tackle. They finally got him in one spot. I would just let them dominate at one spot, and Mitchell has been fine. So no, you have to take a positive there. And the rookies, the moment is not too big. I think all of them have had moments already. Jermaine Johnson was one of the highest graded, I think he's the highest graded Jet this week, especially in the run game. Had a couple really big stops, and it was impressive to see.
Again, make sure you're following at WillPa11 on Twitter. Feel free to, and of course, the TOJ podcast. Make sure you give that a nice 5-star review and to hit subscribe there as well. And if you're watching this, what the hell are you doing? If you haven't already, like the video, hit subscribe down below for more juicy New York Jets content. And Will, I'm going to be honest, we got to get to it. I love Robert Saleh. I love him at the press conferences. I love his personality, the 60%. He's a motivational guy. I'm ready to run through a brick wall in all these hype videos. And then the let's bleep and go. Like, I'm all in on Robert Saleh. But I have to be blunt. The comments from just minutes ago, I mean, an hour ago is when the presser started, somewhere in that range. I cut up the clips. We need to go to him. I love Robert Saleh. I can't say that enough, but we're going to throw it up on the board here for all of you guys in case you missed it because it just happened. Robert Saleh had some comments on some of the team's mistakes. There are 2 clips in particular we're going to play. We'll play the first one, react to it, and then bring the second one up here. Robert Saleh, when asked about specifically, we'll start here. He said every NFL team has 6 to 7 miscommunications a game and called it. It is what it is. This was in response to cornerback DJ Reed, who said these mental errors are unacceptable. Here's Robert Saleh responding to that. Let's play the clip.
No, you know what? All 32 teams, there's going to be 6 or 7 miscommunications a game. It is what it is. There's a lot of different things happening. We've been unlucky on 2 occasions. It's throughout all 32 teams. Now, players feel things, and that's what DJ's feeling like. What he's feeling is there's 4 new faces in the back end, and communication is not at the level we need in terms of the way we talk to one another on the field. And to be honest with you, that's going to get better and better as the weeks go by with regards to them understanding how they're going to play things, just being in the meeting rooms and talking through certain route concepts. So we're a lot better than we were a year ago, and they're only going to get better as the year goes on. And it's a new group that's playing together, and so they're communicating actually pretty good for what you'd expect out of 4 new guys, and I'd anticipate that it's going to be a lot better as the year.
Wow, they're even communicating better than he thought. That's phenomenal. There from Robert Saleh, communicating even better than they thought at this point. Wow, because there are 2 plays in particular I would like to bring up on the miscommunications that DJ Reed didn't specifically reference, but I think we all knew what he was talking about. We go to the Cleveland game. It seemed like LaMarcus Joyner and Sauce came up to each other, exchanged words pre-snap. You got it? You got it? Yeah, I got it. Oh, phenomenal. Great. And then all of a sudden, Amari Cooper's wide open for a touchdown, and they're like looking at each other like, what? That was Jordan Whitehead, excuse me, on that play. But they're looking at each other like, huh? What the? They talked. That was weird. Okay, 1 mistake, and Jeff Ulbrich earlier this week vowed he will never do that again. That mistake won't happen. Okay, Jeff Ulbrich, pause. Let's go to this game. LaMarcus Joyner this time, instead of Jordan Whitehead, comes over to Old Sauce. Blee, blah, blue, blah, blee. Sounds good to me. Okay, let's go. And all of a sudden, Sauce and Quincy Williams double teams Joe Mixon in the flat. Jamar Chase goes, Yahoo! Joe Burrow right here, please. Touchdown. And Joyner just throws his hands up like, what? What happened? And Sauce apparently after the game goes, Jamar, oh, that was Joyner, pal. He should have made the switch. Those are 2 in particular, Will. And we might as well just play the other clip so we get it all out in front of us here. So we'll play the other Saleh clip for you guys as well, and we'll react to this all at the same time. And you heard Saleh there mention that, we got unlucky on 2 plays. Those two plays, by the way, resulted in 2 touchdowns in the red zone. So let's get to the other one here. And this time, Robert Saleh is commenting on the mistakes from his veterans, the quote-unquote back-breaking mistakes is what Saleh was talking about here on this clip that we're about to throw up for you. Again, remember, folks, and for the game cut out for almost everybody who is watching it, so you may not have seen this, but Corey Davis smacks the helmet of a Cincinnati Bengals defender who I believe was Eli Apple. That's a 15-yarder, and JFM had the roughing the passer call. And here's Robert Saleh talking about those mistakes. Let's get this clip in here, and then we'll hear from Will on all this. Here we go. Roll the footage.
It's time on task. It's time on task. It's reps. It's learning to sacrifice what you want at this very moment for what we're trying to achieve in the future. And We had the critical penalty with JFM on third down where we could have the ball 7-6 and possession. One of the ones that kill you, we're 11 minutes to go in the game. We're at the 10-yard line. We're inside the 10-yard line with a chance to cut it to a one-score game with 11 minutes to go. And we're thoroughly in this football game, and we get that personal foul from Corey that pretty much knocks us out of any chance to score. And and those are two veteran players that know better. They're not trying to make those mistakes, but it happens. And that's where, as we get confident and we start rolling, it's we've got to earn the benefit of the doubt in those situations, and we've got to be able to play play above the neck in those situations. But they're going to go away as time goes. Like I said, there's part of it's crappy luck. Like I said, there's 6 or 7 occasions every team is dealing with certain things where they can go one way or the other. We just got to find a way to not just be so darn snake bit where it explodes back in the face.
Will. Wow. We have a lot to unpack there. There are 3 points that it is what it is. It happens when Corey Davis has the 15-yarder. Roughing the passer. It happens. Okay. So those 2 things. That's kind of weird. Call it unlucky, Hey, well, unlucky. It just, the roll of the ball, unlucky. Those kind of things are going to happen for us. Well, what the hell, man? I love Robert Saleh, but just unlucky. It is what it is. No, that sounds like a complete lack of accountability. Man, if I hear that from my coach, those things are going to happen. And the other nugget, let's not forget this one. Oh, in due time, everything will just kind of work itself out. What do you mean? Well, what is this? Will, try to dive into those 3 particular strings of consciousness from Robert Saleh in that answer, which again just screamed lack of accountability as opposed to the other side of the coin.
Yeah, so I'll start with the DJ Reed miscommunication thing because I think, look, I texted with a few people, a few coaches, and I was like, am I crazy? This comment's a little whatever, and they're like, it's him trying to kind of deflect blame from some of the players. This is a classic, Coach Saleh speak of just like, you don't want to take blame, but I does try to find the best way to phrase it, but like it feels like you're almost blaming the coaches, like your assistants in a sense. Then saying like if they're not communicating properly, like that's a coaching problem. Like you're almost like admitting a problem, which I'm not sure there is 6 to 7 mistakes, and that all is. I don't know that every game there is. I think there is mistakes that happen, and a lot of times, there was one. I believe it was either the Quinton Williams sack or the Sheldon Rankin sack. Like Tyler Boyd was wide open, so it was like, yeah, that was a miscommunication. Okay, it was a missed assignment, whatever. And missed assignments and miscommunications are not the same thing to me. Like getting beat and whatever, like that happens. Not knowing what you're supposed to be doing is a problem. So that stuff has to get cleaned up. And it goes the same thing hand in hand with the penalties. Like biggest part of the four of the biggest things to me as a head coach is like, do you manage the clock well, manage the clock and timeouts? Is your team ready to play? Do they play hard for you? Are they disciplined? Like things like that. Do they understand assignments? Do they know what they're supposed to do? Are you good at, being a good play caller? There's guys that are great play callers that aren't good good head coaches. We saw when the Jets had Todd Bowles here. He's obviously grown a lot, but he was a great play caller defensively, but the clock and some of these other things were not his specialty, right? And be able to bring a staff over and all these things are great. But miscommunications can happen, and I understand that they do happen. You have a rookie cornerback who's playing great, but is still a rookie. You have DJ Reed, fresh-faced, didn't play at all during camp. Whitehead's banged up, but has played there. Joyner hasn't played football really in 2 years because he was hurt. So there's a lot of stuff going on, as I mentioned, and as we all kind of know. But this is the same. It's pretty much the same situation, same play a week later that you're getting beat on the same thing, right? We're still right down in the red zone, third down, miscommunication. Sauce takes the flat. I think it was basically it was the same exact thing. I think it was probably the same. I think it might have been the same route, honestly. And you don't think that the Bengals, that Zach Taylor, and all these guys are watching the Browns tape and going, "What we can beat them down in the red zone." So, yeah, it's being prepared. I think these guys play hard for Saleh. I think Saleh. I'd like to see him be more involved in the defense. I think like everyone forgets this guy was an elite top 3, top 4 defensive coordinator. And it's not all on Jeff Ulbrich. Like there's a lot of different stuff that goes into it. The scheme works. Like it does work. You can look around the league. It does work. But when you don't get home with 4, which the Jets have not done, and when they have gotten home, they haven't wrapped Joe Burrow up, and there's multiple big plays that happen. That stuff's frustrating. There's just a lot of little things I think, you talk to some of the guys in the locker room, especially on defense, and it's like, we're so close. And they are. You actually, if you watch it, like Saleh said it too at the presser, and I think, I don't know if the exact words, you probably could correct me on this one, but it was like, once the Sauce big play happened, Joyner hit T. Higgins. After that, they kind of like bottled down. I think maybe they get three or 6 points, hit a turnover. They were getting the ball off, they were getting off the field on 3rd and 4th down. They just got to lock in earlier in the game, because if you give your offense a chance, we've seen they can put up points, at times and pack on yards. So yeah, like it was concerning. Sometimes I was more concerned with the fact that I don't know why, like how we don't know on Zach Wilson's knee yet. That to me is what's the biggest question mark. Like, why do you need another 24 to 36 hours? He looked fantastic. You watch him in warmups; he's playing full speed. So I think he's, I get it. They want to, bring Zach along a little bit. I know kind of hitting on different things here, but that to me is the stuff where, like, I know they don't want to put themselves in a bad situation injury wise with all these guys, because what happened with the Becton stuff. If you say everything's all good and it's not, right, you don't want to get screwed, but. And again, I understand deflecting the blame, and Saleh will take it and say this is kind of the way things are. You don't want DJ Reed to get, you want to back up your players, but the miscommunications, can we cut those down to 3 or 4 miscommunications a game? I feel like each week it should be improving. They're playing week after week after week together. These guys are practicing. It's nice that they've been out there for 3 weeks in a row. So, yeah, I don't want to kill them for it, but at the same time, I think sometimes you can be. If you're going to kind of give a vanilla coach speak answer, it kind of almost indicted the coaching staff without realizing that's what it did. Because to me, it was like, if there's so many miscommunications, that's a coaching problem, which I think they're a good staff. I don't like, you're almost indicting yourself, which is not a positive. You could have just said Sauce is a young player. It happens.
Right. Something like that would have worked. And again, on the luck factor, I get it. It's an oblong shaped football. If it bounces one way or the other, yeah, sure, that's luck. But like blowing an assignment in the red zone, like you were supposed to be here, I was supposed to be here. I don't think that's unlucky. I think that's just, again, to your point, Sauce blowing it as a youngster. Hey, he's young and new. And that's kind of what Saleh alluded to a little bit, with all the guys back there, the communication's actually better than we think because there's so much new there. But again, the unluckiness, that's just the thing. I don't want to harp on one point here. That one is just the one to me where I'm like, Saleh, that just sounds stupid. But let's get to,
No, and there's the other comment, too, that was, they talked about DJ Reed. It's like, I don't know if we need to dumb down the defense a little bit. And Saleh was like, yeah, sometimes you never need, like, we maybe need to back stuff off. I saw a couple of Jets fans on Twitter, like, ranting about it. Again, like, yes, that is true. Sometimes you can kind of overcomplicate things and, whatever. And that's all true. You do that offensively too. But I don't know. This is year 2 of the scheme, and there is a lot of the same guys. It's not as if like they had a lot of talent, but it's not, other than Sauce and I guess Jermaine Johnson, all these guys have been in the league. Like, it's not like Quan Alexander hasn't been in the league, or CJ Mosley or Jordan Whitehead won a Super Bowl, 2 or 3 years ago. LaMarcus Joyner's 32. He's been in a Super Bowl. He's been an All-Pro. Like, DJ Reed's been in Seattle in this system, in San Francisco in this system. So can we clean up the mistakes? Like this week, there's no reason this week there should be. If there's two miscommunications, yes, it happens. You're on the road, things can happen. But 6, 7 a game, I don't know. I just they don't run that much of exotic stuff. I mean, if you watch, it's pretty much a defense that's, if you do your job, it'll be successful and you tackle well. This isn't Rex Ryan where 11 guys line up over the center and all of a sudden 5 guys drop back, 6 are coming out of nowhere. It's not that defense. So that's to me where it's like, again, it's saying stuff, and I don't think it's meant to be bad, but it comes off as like we weren't prepared, and that to me is what's frustrating. I think it frustrates you as well.
100%. And before we get to the Zach Wilson stuff, because again, that also is a weird eyebrow raiser. But to your point that you made in your conversation there, is that Robert Saleh was praised when he was hired. Most of us assume he was going to call the defense. Why wouldn't you? It's your calling card. That's how you became a head coach. So when he was hired and went, no, actually, I'm going to hand the keys off to random guy, it's Jeff Ulbrich, ends up being the guy who gets hired. Everyone went, wow, really? Okay, great. CEO, not the Adam Gase stuff. 2 head coaches, Greg Williams. Like everyone went, okay, that's what we want to hear. That's phenomenal. But it seemed like in year 1, like, and maybe he could get away with it in year 1, like as Jeff Ulbrich was going down with a ship that just crashed into, a big icial glacier, like it was like, oh, he kind of threw his hands up like, well, first year in the system, injuries, don't have the talent, blah, 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 blah. He can't do that this year. If the ship starts crashing this year, I think Saleh has no other choice but to say, sorry, Jeff, move over, pal, or just be more involved. It maybe doesn't completely take over play calling, but something. There's no way he could survive 2 years in a row and simply Jeff Ulbrich is the scapegoat. He gets fired at the end of the year and Saleh goes, well, I guess I picked the wrong guy. Like that has to change as well, because I'm seeing a lot of that in the comments here of that. Again, that's Saleh's calling card. If things start going south, when is it? I don't know. After game 4, 5, 6, 7, he has got to make that determination, but he can't just throw his hands up for a second straight year.
Yeah, it's that's what's tough, right? It's like I get the Jets, where Saleh's been successful, and I think he's growing. You'll start to see he implicitly trusts his staff. I think that's huge. He's been able to bring over some big names. I think he took a lot of people from San Francisco they did not want to lose, and all these different things. But that said, sometimes you implicitly trust, not to be philosophical here or whatever, but in life, sometimes you feel, you trust people and maybe you don't always trust the right people. It's not anyone's fault, but it just, maybe it's not the right, situation with Ulbrich or whatever it is. I'm not saying he's the number one problem. I'm just saying, it's obviously been an issue with miscommunication. You're the defensive coordinator. Obviously, fingers going to be pointed at you. So, yeah, I'd like to see Saleh more involved in the defense. And look, I'd love to see Saleh call plays. I don't know how much he's really helping on the offensive side of the ball. So, right? Like, it's like how much is he, really involved? But I know they would just want that CEO type, and I get it. But, sometimes you got to make the hard decisions. And whether it's a different defensive coordinator, whether it's him being the defensive coordinator, whether it's changing up a linebacker coach, a DB coach, sometimes you just got to shake things up a little bit. And, they have more than enough talent on this defense to be at least at minimum a middle of the pack defense. I think they could be an above average offense this year. And I like for the rest of the year with Zach, if he's even middle of the pack offensively. And I think they can be middle of the pack defense, which, would lead them to 7, 8, 9 wins. I think that's where everyone kind of saw them in that range of if Zach's really good, they get to 9. If Zach's not so good, they're probably a 6 or 7 win team. It just clean it up, clean that stuff up. Look, Quentin Williams flipped out on Aaron Wycott yesterday because he's like, why are we blitzing? Why are we going 0? The Jets obviously stopped doing that. And it seemed to work. They're like, whatever. But again, like, why would you blitz Joe Burrow when everyone's played them in too high shell the entire year and they haven't scored any points? And then it's like, you don't be too stubborn sometimes. The Gus Bradley, everyone, I saw a funny tweet that was like the Jets, Gus Bradley, he was less stubborn than Robert Saleh scheme this week, which is crazy. But again, I think Ulbrich knows what he's talking about, but at the same time, you have to adjust. And like, these guys can adjust. DJ Reed's been like I was trying to say, like, these guys have been in the league. They know they can adjust. They'll be all right. Put someone more on their plate and let's see them perform. Guys want to be challenged. They want to win. They want to be competitive. So they could bounce back easy. Look, if they go out there and give up 40 to Mitch Trubisky with that offensive line, like then, okay, now we can have a different type of conversation where it's like, look, the Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year. Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Joe Mixon, they have some elite weapons. Joe Burrow is awesome. You have 27, you'll take it. Realistically, if the Jets offense showed up yesterday the way we all thought they could have, they should have scored 27, 30 points as well. So this week's crucial. I think we both feel that way. I think this is one of those games, if Zach's back, which I know we'll get to. Yeah. If Zach's back and you lay an egg, this is not a good Pittsburgh team. Now, is it Mike Tomlin? Is there talent? Minka Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, the offensive side of the ball, Najee, and some of the receivers. But we just watched them on Thursday night against Cleveland. They were not good. If you watch the New England game, they were not good. They had no business being the Bengals week 1. It was a missed extra point and a missed field goal that led them to win. So as much as we joke, the Jets could be 0-3 if that comeback didn't happen. Steelers very much should be 0-3 if not for a missed extra point. So this is not must win. I don't ever want to put that on a team in week 4, but this is a game where like you cannot not show up, and there's got to be some incremental progress, especially defensively and down in the red zone with the offense.
100%. First off, just to throw this nugget in there, again, Robert Saleh's job as head coach is to go where his team needs him. His team needs him on the defensive side of the ball right now. So, again, your job is to go where your team needs, even in that CEO approach. Now, let's get to your point. You may not be wanting to say, well, I will. This is a must-win game. Look at the games that are coming up for the Jets. Week 5, all of a sudden you have a 3-0 Dolphins team that just beat the Bills. Now, you could say this or that. Well, the Bills were injured and this or that. They won the game. So they're 3-0. Okay, you got that one coming up. Back-to-back road trips against Denver and Aaron Rodgers. So Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Again, if you look at the tape, not as imposing as you thought they would be, but still, they're them. And then New England and Buffalo before the bye. Well, if you don't get this one, Well, where are you getting it then? That's my point. So I think it is must win. And then let's address the Zach Wilson question, because I think a lot of us expected, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to break the fourth wall here. I don't even know if I'm allowed to do this. The FBI van is probably going to break in as soon as the words come out of my mouth. I had an article pre-written. It's still saved in the drafts for my job, heavy on Jets, that the Jets have made a decision on the Zach Wilson situation. I fully expected it at 3:15 when Saleh was set to speak. And you guys can listen to that on the Jets YouTube, their official app, and everything else of him speaking. I'm like, okay, ready to publish this puppy. Saleh, just say it. Say those sweet words. Whisper into my ear, Robert, about it. Zach Wilson's ready. It's like, well, as soon as the doctors clear him, he's in. I'm sorry. Was that the same thing that you just said last week? What do you mean? Well, we got to talk to his doctors. What do you mean his doctors? Have you ever heard of a phone? Give him a ring, man. What are we waiting for? You raised an eyebrow earlier, Will, and now we'll officially dive into it. For those who missed it, Robert Saleh said we should know somewhere in the next 24 to 36 hours. Well, dandy, because the game's coming up on Sunday. I hope you know ASAP that Zach Wilson is ready to go or not ready to go. That's the thing I don't get. If it's getting pushed to this point of not knowing till now, like, wouldn't you know heading in, like, okay, he's looking good. All right, they clear him on Sunday. Boom, let's go. Monday, we announce it. We're full bore because practice is coming. What is the waiting? What are we waiting for? Hanukkah? Kwanzaa? Christmas, perhaps? It's time for Zach Wilson to play. This is the timeline. And Ian Rappaport on Sunday, pregame, by the way, it's almost like the extra fire says he looks all good to go. All ships aboard. Yet here we are talking about not knowing right now at this point on a Monday.
Yes, it's interesting. I was thinking about this while we were talking about it. I know we kind of joked about it week one, but this to me kind of felt more like make the Steelers have to try to game plan for both a little bit. Which I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know how much people really. I mean, it's not really that
like
much.
Really, what are the Steelers losing sleep over Zach? Well, again, I get it. Joe Flacco. Oh, that's true. That's right. Joe Flacco is a statuesque guy that looked terrible. You were right. He looked terrible. And how the hell did I start him in fantasy? I had Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady as choices. I went with Joe Flacco. Talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. Talk about what the hell was I smoking? I have no idea. But right. So again, Zach Wilson is much better athletic. He's going to move the pocket, do everything. But in the grand scheme of things, if like, oh boy, I'm not sure who they're going to play. Like, come on, man. I imagine so with how they answered it. That's kind of what it sounded like to me. And I hope that's the stupid stuff they're doing here.
Yeah, I hope that's what it is. Look, I think, yes, there is a clearance that needs to be happened, but from everything that we've heard and seen, Zach looks fantastic. It was letting the bone bruise heal. You know, this has always been the earliest target date. His conversations with Zach, with Tom Pellerosa reported it, Rapp reported it. I think he plays this week. I think it'll come out, tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon when Saleh talks to the media before during media day, and then Wednesday he'll practice. This game, you want to see Zach play. Like, I think for everyone, I think we've lost. It's easy. It's hard. The NFL's overreaction, but like everyone's kind of not lost the plot a little bit, but like this whole season was about, do you have the right roster? But also more importantly, do you have the quarterback to take you to the future, right? Because you have all these young guys, like, and if Zach turns out to be even this 2021 class looks awful right now. It's Trevor Lawrence, who's really good, and everyone else who's either not good or injured or, hasn't played yet. So if Zach can even be a middle of the road quarterback, you feel pretty good about where you are going into year 3, where, okay, now there's actually pressure to win. The roster's the year older, all these different things. That's where the whole goal was this year, is win some games and figure out who your quarterback's going to be for not only this year, but the next 4, 5, 6 years. I'm not going to do the 10, 15 years anymore. That doesn't really happen. But yeah, look, it was a little, you just I know they're just trying to protect, again, they don't want to put their foot in their mouth. God forbid something comes up on a scan and whatever. It was weird that it's his doctor that he has to go to. I guess it's because he's the one who performed the surgery. I thought that was a little interesting. It's kind of uncommon. I think Rich Sweeney was like, what do you mean? Like, his doctor's in California. It was a little bit of an eyebrow raiser, but I think it's just precautionary if he needs to get cleared. But from Rapp's report, as you mentioned, he said all signs point to him getting cleared. I think, look, if yesterday, we can talk about this all we want, and you can say that the Jets, Zach's always been the starter, but I mean, look, if Flacco went out and put up 350 and 4 touchdowns yesterday and they won 31-20 or something, maybe give Zach an extra week and you say, we'll ride the hot hand one more week. With how Joe Flacco looked yesterday, like, the question's either going to be, if Zach's not playing, why is Mike White not starting? And as much as how I feel, I don't think Mike White's all that great, but
we're in the same page.
We're in the same, right. But my point is more so like there's no quarterback controversy. Like Zach needs to play, and you need to see him out there. Look, Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and all these guys are showing a lot of promise, especially in the skill guys, Breece Hall and Michael Carter. And Garrett Wilson's a top 7 graded receiver in football through 3 weeks. It's awesome. You need a guy that can move. And with this, I didn't understand the Bart Scott, Willie Colon comments. I love those guys and I respect them heavily, but didn't understand the comments of like they shouldn't put Zach out there. I don't mean to be harsh. If you don't trust your number 2 overall pick in year 2 to go play a defense on the road because they blitz a lot, you probably got the pick wrong. And I think
preach.
It's the NFL, man. Like sack up, for lack of a better term. Like,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You know what? They're going to go what? Because then week 5, now you're going to bring Zach back against Miami, who's actually a better defense than Pittsburgh. So then it's going to go to week 6, and what? That's Denver or Green Bay.
I think it's Denver first, I think. Yeah.
Right. Both really good defenses on the road. Like one, because all of a sudden now we're into week 9. Like that's what's going to happen. So just like bring Zach back. He's healthy. He looks healthy. Once he gets cleared tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed. Let's see what he's got. I think it'd be good for him to start on the road too, in my opinion. That way you're away from the home crowds. They go 3 out the first drive. You're not getting the boo birds and everything. You can go steal one on the road, and Zach's coming back. They're 2-2. They're playing a good Miami team, but at least you're coming home off a win. People are feeling much better as opposed to kind of the pressure coming back at home. But man, it'd be concerning if Zach's not back this week. I think you'd be like, this is a 2 to 4 week injury that's now in week 7, and they need to boost the quarterback badly, especially with the left tackle problems where Zach could probably make a guy miss. We've seen it. We've seen him do it.
Yeah.
He can make a guy miss. They haven't done any RPO stuff, no boots, no rollouts, nothing, because they can't do it. That's where you'll see Zach improve this offense the most. And look, I know Zach's not perfect. I think we all know that. And he's missed a lot of throws. That Eagles game wasn't pretty, the first drive, but it was one drive. Let's give him some time. He's had 13 NFL starts. Once he gets to 20, 25, 30 starts, basically the end of this year, then you'll have a better idea of who he is.
And thank God you said that, Will, because, Bart Scott, Willie Colon, and more people, quite frankly, were saying it on social media, if Joe Flacco looks really good, maybe we should just keep riding the Joe train. And then at that point, you're just making excuses. Like, your guy can either sack up or he can't. At the end of the day, you either push him out of the boat and he's either going to sink or he's going to swim. And you need to figure that out, because if you start doing that, then you could start, as you said, just start making excuses. Well, maybe week 5, the Dolphins, the sun's going to be shining. Week 6. I don't know how he feels about traveling to Colorado. Well, week 7. Aaron Rodgers. And then you just start going down this gosh darn rabbit hole. If he's never all right, let's just wait till 2042. At that point, maybe he will mature. Like, what the hell? Yes, you got to play Zach Wilson ASAP. And for the love of everything that's holy, I believe it's going to be this week. I'm going to collect a bunch of the questions I've just kind of seen here before we get you out of here, Will. Elijah Moore, let's ask about him. I am seeing people in here. There's one I saw earlier that we've got like hundreds of comments, so I'm going to miss it. So I'm going to have to paraphrase, where he said that this is why Elijah Moore fell in the draft. The teams knew about Elijah Moore being so terrible and sucking and not creating separation, all these other things. What is the state of the address on Elijah Moore? Well, are you ready to cut him? Are you ready to move on? Bench him? Jeff Smith time? Is the Elijah Moore hype train over? Yeah, Denzel Mims time, right? It's over with Elijah Moore, obviously, right?
Yeah, he sucks. He's terrible. They should trade him for a 7. If anyone that was at the game or anyone that has watched any of the tape from yesterday, Elijah Moore is wide open all the time. Of course, the play that I know there's a stat that got tweeted out about, Elijah Moore's separation wasn't very good yesterday.
Yes.
That's also when targeted. So that's not all the plays he's not targeted in which he's wide open. There's clips. Michael Nani does a great job, and a lot of these other people on Jets Twitter. Go look at some of the clips that have been posted today. He is more than wide open. Elijah Moore is not a 50-50 jump ball guy, and that's okay. I don't think anyone's expecting that. So we're throwing him a double move and triple coverage on 4th down when everyone else is open doesn't necessarily mean Elijah Moore is not good. Look, has he had an incredible start to the year? No. Has he been efficient? And he's actually made some really nice plays that kind of gone under the radar? Joe Flacco hasn't really looked his way, in my opinion. There's been a lot of times where he's wide open. Garrett Wilson's been a more heavily featured part of the offense, and he's deservedly been that way. That doesn't mean Elijah Moore is not a really good player. And is it a good problem to have that right now the Jets have 3 guys in Moore, Davis, and Wilson that are all on pace for over 800 yards? Like, I didn't think that was a problem. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen doesn't suck because Justin Jefferson is amazing. Like,
right.
it's okay. Or,
They're not mutually exclusive.
We saw T.
correct.
Higgins yesterday. T. Higgins is fantastic and torched the Jets yesterday. That doesn't mean Jamar Chase isn't very good. You're right. Like, it's okay. So on Elijah Moore, I think you'll see him continue to get more involved. He's third on the team in targets right now. And he'll be, you'll see that probably bump up a little bit more and make some plays. They got to get him more involved, obviously. But again, the passing game is not quite the same without Elijah. I think we may have lost our boy here. There we go.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm here. Yeah, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say Elijah Moore will be fine. I don't think he's played badly and all this different stuff. I just think Garrett Wilson shined a lot, and Garrett Wilson's on pace for almost 200 targets, right? It's not like it's not as if he's having a bad year. It's just he hasn't put up 100 catches, 1,000-yard season stats through the first 3 weeks, but he'll be fine. Elijah's open a lot. He'll be all right.
All right, we're going to assume here, and I know that's a dangerous play. Saleh wouldn't even do it at the presser. We're going to assume that Zach Wilson's going to play, and when it is official, again, we will have another live stream. We'll talk about it. What are fair expectations for Zach? Because I think there's a lot of different ways to evaluate this. The Jets said they would not put Zach Wilson back on the field until he was 110%. So with that in mind, will there be natural rust? We don't want to put too high of expectations, like, oh man, he's going to be buzzing like Aaron Rodgers out there. But on the same token, do you want to have too low expectations where you're like, well, it's got to be better than Joe Flacco? Like, or is there somewhere in between that we can all realistically kind of put on the plate heading into Pittsburgh week?
Yeah. So for this week specifically, there's going to be some rust if Zach plays. I also expect Zach to hit the ground running at the same time. Like, I don't. He's been practicing the last couple of weeks. He's throwing. Zach's in a year 2 now. It's the same scheme. Yeah. Well, there'll be some, there'll be certain reps and things early on. Is he going to need to take a shot or two? Not a big hit, but you always want to get, take a little bit of a lick,
Sure.
early on and kind of get the blood flowing and things. Yeah. But I think the biggest rust will be, him confidently getting out on the run and out of the move and making a move and feeling good about the knee. Yeah. That stuff we saw kind of in the Houston game. Once he, after that Houston game, he started to kind of click in there and started to trust the knee a little bit more. That stuff is real. Now, from an actual throwing perspective, there should not be that much rust. Again, the Steelers they have a couple really talented guys in Highsmith, Fitzpatrick, and obviously Cam Hayward and some other guys in the defense are, obviously very good, but this isn't like the early 2000s steel curtain, Steelers defense. TJ Watt's not playing. So, and he's a top 2 or 3 guy in football player, let alone defensive player. So no, the Jets have enough weapons. There's guys open. If you watched yesterday, like, even an average level, if Zach plays average level football, I think you'll see, him be more than fine. I think, can they get 230 and a touchdown or 2 out of Zach with, limited to maybe 1 turnover or no turnovers? That'd be good. Get the running game involved. But yeah, no, fair expectations. I think 21 of 29 for 230 and 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick. I think you'd feel really good about him coming back and playing, a solid game. Maybe makes the one mistake, but injects some, life into this team and, gets them to 2-2. If they get a win and Zach throws for over 200 yards and a touchdown or 2, I think you'd feel pretty good about him, going to week 5 against Miami.
All right. I see this as Boy Green interviewing Chad Pennington's brother. Perhaps Will Parkinson.
You never know. Yeah, we might have long-lost brothers.
It could be. And again, if Zach Wilson's not ready to go this week, Will Parkinson better suit up the pads.
I'll play left tackle. I can play left tackle. I got it. I still got it.
Excellent. Excellent. I hope so, because they need some absolute love here. There's no question about it. All right. I guess the final question here, unless another one comes in here that I'm trying to filter through here with the feeds coming through. Is there any concern about, are you ready for the Breece Hall train to take over? Was that kind of a step in the process? Both Breece Hall and Michael Carter had the same amount of rushing yards at 39, but the clear difference was the shifting of pass game responsibility from Michael Carter, who had 1 catch for 7 yards, to Breece Target, who had both the targets and the catches as an outlet option. Now, I think a little bit of that was too much Joe Flacco just burying the training wheels and deciding to do that as opposed to running an offense. So 37-year-old Joe Flacco. But also, if you try to get the glass half full, like, oh, Breece Hall's taking more of the rock because the coaching staff believes in him that way. Is that the proper way to look, or was this just, again, a bad Flacco decision that just kind of fed a monster?
So I was thinking about this yesterday because I felt like we kind of naturally thought at least me coming into the year, I thought it was going to be 60% Hall, 40% Carter, if it kind of the way it would average out throughout the year. I thought Carter's been really good through the first couple of games. I know he had a really bad drop week 1, but again, the game was kind of out of hand at that point, so I'm not sure how much it really mattered. And Breece had a couple of, he had a big drop yesterday, actually. That that was really tough.
Flacco underthrow and Hall drop.
It was it was bad. But I think Hall is probably more explosive, or is more explosive.
Yeah,
He's a bigger back, so you want to monitor how much you don't want to give Michael Carter. I think when last year they went to it and he was getting 20, 25 touches a game, he kind of broke down a little bit. I like to see Michael Carter on third down, but Breece Hall right now is better in pass pro, and I think they trust him more, and he's made some plays. So, yeah, look, Breece Hall is going to continue to get more and more reps. I think Saleh mentioned it early. I'd like to see them run the ball more, frankly. I'm not sure. Like, I know they keep getting down early and they don't trust it, but they just got to stick with it, because as much as I love Wilson and Moore and all these guys, they got 2 really good backs, and they got a really high-paid offensive line, especially interior-wise. They should be able to run the football and kind of establish a tone, keep the defense off the field. Something that does help your defense. Good offense can make your defense look better. You look at Buffalo, their defense is good, but their offense scores a ton of points, so the defense can play, be a little bit more creative. But yeah, Breece Hall, I think you'll see, again, I think throughout the year he'll probably get more reps than Carter. But that doesn't mean Michael Carter's not a good player. I think it's just he's kind of a really prototypical ideal 1B back, and Breece Hall kind of fits that prototypical 1A in today's NFL. Can pass, block, catch, run, obviously, and I think he's close to breaking a big 50 or 60 yarder.
Yeah.
We've seen it. He's been close now 2 weeks in a row where I think he had a 15 plus yard run every week, which is, that's nice to see in the NFL. Your first 3 games, he's had big plays every week. I think he's close though. And that drop was really unfortunate, man, because I know there's a lot of different things that happened yesterday. Obviously, probably the biggest one's the JFM penalty at 7-6. The Jets about to get the ball back. But the way Flacco was playing, I'm not sure that anything would have really mattered at the end of the day. But that drop definitely hurt, because I think they were close. He bailed him out, though. Flacco almost got him killed. And right after Garrett Wilson gets a hospital ball, he threw Breece Hall one, and Breece Hall is just huge, so he got bounced off him. But I was really nervous. I'm like, great, both the Jets' top offensive weapons through 3 weeks are going to get murdered by a 30-year-old quarterback.
Which, by the way, Joe Flacco, again, that's just a jerk move on the quarterback. You got to help out your guy, especially Garrett Wilson, who's not, I don't want to quite say slight of frame, but like, you got to help a brother out, like not put him in compromising positions. Jesse Bates, is screaming down and annihilates Garrett Wilson and separates his soul from his body. I don't know how Garrett Wilson held onto that football, so tip of the cap, but I would rather him drop that football if it would have meant his health. He ended up coming back in the game, which is always good news. So thank the Lord above for that. That was nice. But we were talking about that actually with Andy Vasquez on the Breece Hall runs. I told him in the Cleveland game, I kept seeing like almost out of body experience as if I was Breece Hall, was seeing him. Like he saw it, went, and then like went for it, and then just like almost a shoelace tackle gets caught. And the same thing in this one. There's a couple times where you think he just like, and you see it on the college tape when he does those straight up cuts up, and then he just he just hits that turbo button, as Andy Vasquez called it. So like, again, I think you're right. I think we're a little away from just a breakaway 80-yard touchdown, like either a sweep or a nice, kind of a dive play where he just cuts up and boom against the grain and takes it to the house, which again, obviously the quote unquote home run hitter. I mean, that's what the Jets need, because it's been painful, obviously, to watch with 4 field goals yesterday. That was tough.
Yeah. No, the other thing that I was thinking about too, and I think you hope with Zach's kind of, you hope that big play kind of, gets there. I think Flacco's only attempted 2 balls over 40 yards throughout which is weird. It's not what I expected. Watching Flacco a bunch in person in camp, I wasn't expecting like the dink and dunk kind of check down stuff to be. They're not built right now, especially when they have the offensive line situation at left tackle that they do, to be a 15-20 play this methodical offense of, built in like the early 2000s. That's not how they're like. They need big plays, and I don't. We've seen some, but they do need that one big play. The Elijah Moore play against Miami last year, or a big run or something to spark them. They've had a couple turnovers on defense, but they need that one big pick six or something to a special teams touchdown. This team kind of just feels like they need something to spark them and boost them, and like it's a young team where they can ride momentum, but they got to get momentum early on. Even the Cleveland game, I know the third quarter was tough, obviously. But getting points before the half, like that's what I was so disappointed with yesterday, is I felt like I believe they cut it to 17-6, I want to say, going into half. I think they got points, and everyone was booing in the stadium. That was just because Flacco was they only had 7 seconds with no timeouts. But they had a chance to come out of half. They can, back-to-back points all of a sudden, instead of it being 17-13, you get up another touchdown. Like they need to that's
the strip sack, right?
Yeah. It's just I know no one wants to blame the quarterback. You got to be aware, dude. We used to crush Sam Darnold about strip sacks. You can't give Flacco a
and he fumbles every time. Every time someone tries to Flacco, I'm like, dude, where's the awareness? The pocket
every damn week, man. It's every week. But no, look, I'm excited for Zach to come back, and they have a good opportunity to win a football game on Sunday. And yesterday sucked, but they're on to next week. Week 1 sucked too, and they end up winning week 2. If you could split the AFC North, I think we'd all sign up for that. We all would have signed up for that, 3 weeks ago.
100%. And that's how I want to end this as we look ahead to Pittsburgh, is that despite, again, the Bengals thing, it was hard because, again, they were there. Like, again, they were, before Corey Davis' stupid penalty, they scored. It's a 1-score game. So, again, there's all these opportunities within the suckage, so to speak. They're 1-2. But if you beat Pittsburgh, you're 2-2. Who wouldn't have signed up for 2-2 heading into that Week 5 Miami game? And let's roll it out and see what happens. So let's look ahead to this Pittsburgh game. It will be Mitch Trubisky. By the way, everybody, just had a great conversation. Alex Kozora, one of the best in the business there with Pittsburgh of Steelers Depot. That interview will drop tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And he confirmed what Mike Tomlin said after the game on Thursday Night Football. They get the extra rest for the Jets game. Is no quarterback controversy. He said definitively no when asked if Kenny Pickett will be brought in. And Kozora double dipped, saying, to the general public, the Steelers are a lot further away from any potential switch than anyone on the outside knows. So I said, okay, good to know. So it will be Mitch Trubisky, no TJ Watt. They do have some guy named Minkah Fitzpatrick, who I heard was pretty good from his AFC East days, so he's back there. But again, this is an offense that has a lot of talent. But I described it yesterday on the show, Will, that looking in the Ferrari, wow, sexy, Claypool, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Najee Harris, nice. Then you left the hood, you go, what the hell? There's nothing in here. That's because that's a quarterback. The quarterback drives the engine, and Mitch Trubisky is not very good. Hashtag analysis. So, Will, give us the prediction, crystal ball it for us. Jets, Pittsburgh. I get it's early. Again, we're recording this live on Monday, so injuries, things to happen. Again, Zach Wilson's not 100% yet, although we believe him to play. George Fant is day-to-day, so he's up in the air. So we don't know a lot of key injury updates, and I understand that. However, come on, we're here anyway. Why not? So, Will, how do you think this one plays out Sunday, Jets Steelers?
If Zach Wilson plays,
of course,
the Jets win 21-17. If Zach Wilson does not play, I think they lose 24-10. I know that same. I think that. I think it's just I get, I don't know. I don't trust it.
Don't blame me.
Again, I don't know how much, it's not that Zach is this all-world quarterback, because he has not been. But the last 6 games, he gave him the chance. I think they won 2 or 3 down the stretch, and he looked really good in the Bucs game. I feel like Zach's ability to move should help this offense enough. This team will respond on the road. Weirdly, they look like they played better on the road than they have at home so far. We'll see. I mean, again, it's early, but my gut feeling says they bounce back this week. But it's obviously dependent on a couple injuries and what happens with the Steelers. Trubisky or Pickett is they should not be giving up 30, 40 points regardless of how good the weapons are. The Steelers' offensive line's a mess. But again, we heard that about the Bengals' offensive line, and yesterday was tough. Modine, I know I don't get every prediction right, but I try to be objective. It doesn't always work, but we're trying.
100%. Well, Will, before we get you out of here, tell everyone where they can follow you, and also, of course, where they could hit up the Turn on the Jets podcast, which just had superstar guests on a left to right basis. I don't know how the hell you're getting all these guys. You're just so gosh darn handsome and talented, I suppose. But let people know where they can hit you up there as well for the podcast.
Yeah, so Twitter, Instagram, the whole nine. Tag down below. Try to bring some good content to the table. Turn on the Jets podcast, wherever you get podcasts. It'll be back up on Spotify this week. Got whatever. There's something to happen with our Spotify thing, so that'll be back up there. Make sure you guys tune in, doing some stuff with the post, doing stuff with yourself with stuff on Fridays. So a lot of stuff, Jets football, if you want some Aaron Judge content, that'll be on there as well. But I appreciate you having me on, obviously, as always. And, appreciate all the love. I'm not Chad Pennington's brother, although that would be pretty cool.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. Sorry, folks. Sorry for all those that were in the comments about that, but we're going to have to do this again soon with,
of course.
Yeah, with Chad Pennington's supposed brother here on the show. Get that kind of celebrity on the program. We'd appreciate it. Well, Will, thank you so much for joining us, man. Again, Turn on the Jets podcast, one of the best in the gosh darn business, so make sure you do it. And then also, again, as he mentioned, a little New York Post love, a little verified blue check New York Post action. And let's get Will Pa, who's been flirting with 10K. Let's get that brother to 10K on the old Twitter account. That's a big milestone. So at Will Pa 11. That would be beautiful. So, guys, thank you so much for all the awesome comments. We tried to get to as many as possible. I kept having weird technical issues every time I touched the laptop, so hands off ever since I discovered that issue. So we'll try to fix that in the future. But, guys, thanks for joining us. And, Will, thank you so much, pal. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on.
There he is, Will Parkinson, Turn on the Jets podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at WillPa11. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.